You knew he came in black. Did you know he came in blue? Here's a look at McFarlane Toys' DC Direct, the new Batman Adventures, Blue Cowl Batman. As a child, Bruce Wayne watched as his parents were brutally killed in Gotham City's crime alley. Traumatized by their deaths, he devoted his life to becoming the world's greatest weapon against crime, Batman. To become the ultimate vigilante, the Dark Knight disciplined his mind and body to reach the pinnacle of mental and physical superiority in the relentless pursuit of justice. Even though the Cape Crusader's cowl has changed, his focus remains the same. Before that we get a closer look at the new Batman Adventures Blue Cowl Batman, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys. Yeah, that did provide the sample we could have a look at. All this week, in fact, we are going to be looking at this entire wave of new adventures of Batman figures. We wanted to start things first, though, I felt, with Batman. Taking the tape measure, and let's see how tall the figure actually stands. Batman in his blue cowl state actually still stands the same at 6 inches in height, or roughly 15 centimeters tall. Todd and his team did pick the reins up from the DC Direct. Because of that, these figures are essentially using the same bodies as the original DC Direct new Batman Adventure figures. Different deco, very similar style of bodies. It seems like they have made some tweaks, though. You may notice already right away, like the very visible pegs at the tops of Batman's thighs are completely omitted now with the newer releases. Here's also what the figure looks like with the Batman, the animated series Batman, one of the few one-shot figures that we actually got from McFarlane on the DC Multiverse line. Sure, the common cold wouldn't prevent Batman from fighting crime, nor will the common cold prevent me from doing this review. The figure, first of all, from accessory standpoint, does come include with this. It's a reproduction cell from the new Batman Adventures. As you can see, it comes framed like this, and it's really nice presentation. I mean, this would be like an additional bells and whistles that, as a collector, you really wouldn't expect them to have things like this thrown in. So I really appreciate the fact they would take the time to do that. On the back, though, it actually does give you a description of this. It's from the episode Legend of the Dark Knight, Season 2, Episode number 6. Synopses. Several children give their widely varied opinions on who they think the Batman is. Air date is October 10th, 1998. Directed by Dan Riba. Story by Bob Goodman, Bruce Timm. Animation services by Coco Enterprises CO. And that's in Dong Yang. Music by Shirley Walker. I'm sure when we are going to be looking at, now we are also going to be checking out the Scarecrow and the Riddler that are also part of this wave as well. Like, way to just give it all away now, humbled reviewer. So I would imagine that they're probably going to come in with very similar reproduction cells. Like, again, these aren't the original ones, but the fact we get ourselves reproductions is a pretty cool little accessory. Got to thank Todd and his team for that. Also got to really thank Todd for upgrading the state of the display stands that come included with these figures. Now, I don't have the original one for Batman. I'm sure I do, and it sits somewhere. But I do happen to have one here from Batgirl. The stands worked essentially the same, where you had a front, a half turn, and a 3/4 turn, and basically would just show you what the character designs would be. I mean, these looked okay, because they actually looked like they would be inserts of like a characterization book. Where I actually do have a behind-the-scenes kind of book that basically tells all the synopsis of Batman, the character backgrounds. It's like a writer's guide to the Batman animated series. I should really look at that one day. While the stands looked okay, I mean, the state of the waist clips, though, were dismal. Now, this one actually did have an adjustable waist clip. Some of the earlier ones even had less than that. And these actually would open and close, but these would always come loose. I never really felt that they securely fit around the waist of any character, Batman or otherwise. The ones that we get now, though, are a vast upgrade. While though the shape seems somewhat the same, almost even identical, now has Batman The New Adventures on the top, or New Adventures of Batman, and instead of having this awkward waist clip, what they've done instead is the most simplest route. They actually have themselves like an actual spring clip. So you can open and close this and move this around. My only one criticism, though, is I feel like this sits really loose on the peg, on the post. Other than that, though, it's a really nice display stand. And I'm sure we will be getting more of this as we look at the line moving forward. This, of course, does fit around Batman's waist. The only one issue he really does have is the fact that obviously his fabric cape or his plastic cape would get in the way of things. So you kind of have to move the cape up. And then you have to kind of get this right up on Batman's. Now, you could also really clip this also around Batman's leg, too. Nothing really has to say that it has to fit around Batman's waist. If you'd rather instead, in this case, because, again, Batman's got his cape in the way, probably you could just easily clip this around his leg and call it a day. I'm going to call it, though, a day and at least move these display stands out of the way. But, by the way, too, it comes in 2 separate pieces. Technically, it really came in 3 separate pieces. The waist clip, the actual post, and then display stand. And when you are putting this in place, as you probably already know, this basically just sits in place, and now you get to go with the display stand. Move that out of the way. Batman does also come included with the hands. Now, I think the original Black Cowl Batman had the very same accessories. One said accessory I already have attached on the figure's forearm. Just happens to be this one. The figure does come included with two versions of the grapple line. One that's a separate piece, one that's already attached to his hands and molded as one piece. If I bring back in the Black Cowl Batman, you can already see that I've already had the figure for a while displayed with this. I still kind of feel the same way, though. I mean, it's nice to include like a separate display, a separate accessory like this to be displayed with the character, but you're only going to ultimately lose it anyways. And it's not like really he has a hand really dedicated for, I guess you could technically take yourself like this hand, for example, and that basically just fits around his hand that way. But you're never going to get the accurate molding similar to what you would have with this. And if you're only going to lose this accessory anyways, why not just release the figure with only just this accessory already molded to the figure's hands, which as you can see, this one is. So I guess it's okay for some. I would rather if they just had spent the plastic, dedicated the plastic just to do this, rather than having two separate standalone bat lines. The figure does also come included with a batarang. Nice looking batarang, though. With all of these, by the way, the figure does also have dedicated hands. So, like, for example, he's got, if I grab both of these here, he comes with two hands specifically dedicated for holding the batarang. Take yourself the batarang, fits this inside the hand like that, and Batman holds it perfectly. He has that on this side, and would you believe, again, he has a mirror flip of it, so he has the hand, yes, that goes on this side as well. The figure does also come included with a couple of C-clamp hands, C-gripping hands. Again, you know, if you want to bring back in the batarang here, the bat line here, the bat line basically just fits, not so easily though, but it basically fits inside his hand. I guess somewhat like that. I guess like, no, that's not the right way. Basically, this would fit somewhat in his hand. And basically just plug in place like that. Or again, like if you just want to have him with like just partially relaxed hands, he also comes with those included as well. So those are all the accessories. Let's move those all out of the way. Getting, though, a closer look now at Blue Cowl Batman, which again, to look at this one, I mean, it's no different really that if you had the chance to already pick up the original DC Direct one. There is, though, considerable changes. One of the biggest changes I would have to say is probably the use of the plastic that they have. One thing about the original DC Direct figures, which will find figures for their time, they always kind of felt like they were more brittle plastic. I mean, yes, they still had full posability where it counted in the elbows and obviously in the knees. Also, from the design of the characters in the cartoon, it made for much more lankier characters. I've actually had a couple of DC Direct Batman figures over the time that have unfortunately broken their ankle pegs just because the weight of the character, or maybe I was just moving it carefully, cautiously, and yet it still unfortunately broke and snapped the ankle. This Batman still stands, knock on wood, okay. I find, though, that the plastic that they're now using for the Blue Cowl Batman seems more durable, even though, like, obviously still missing leg day. I do find like the plastic that they're actually using feels a little bit more durable. Like I can bend the knees, for example, and I don't feel like, well, providing, of course, you got the knee bent in the right place. We'll kind of talk more about that in a moment. But it does feel like I have less worries, really, about this kind of plastic being used. The only trade-off, unfortunately, though, with using a more forgiving plastic, it does make the character a lot shinier. The DC Direct, for example, had a much more matte finish for Batman's suits, while now the gray that we get here for the new release has a much shinier plastic. He has much, obviously the shoulder pads look very similar to one another as well. But again, like it has a much more shinier plastic. So if you don't like shiny plastic on your Cape Crusaders, you may be a little turned off by the idea that, yeah, they're now using, I would almost even like best describe it as more of a, I don't know, like a more user-friendly, but again, like a much shinier plastic. Head sculpt still looks good. I mean, there's nothing at all that I would say I would have changed to this. I still dig, though, Batman being in black than in blue, but I do think that the head sculpt is still really good on this figure. Now, of course, when it comes to the articulation on this figure, nothing changes at all between this guy that wasn't already present on this one. The only thing already mentioned, though, is that while this one did have pegs, very visible pegs on the tops of the thighs, the new one from Todd and his team now replaces those altogether with seamless-looking legs, at least from the top. You can still obviously see the joints down below here. Now, for the figure's articulation, Batman's head is going to be on a ball joint, like the one before. It's going to rotate the head all the way around. That's going to look up only by just a little bit, though. What's he looking at? I guess we'll never know. Head looks down, and you can also move the head back and forth as well. Here's where the limitations come into play. Obviously, you can't get Batman fully at a T-pose just because his shoulders are covered over by the cape. Sure enough, yeah, you can move the arms forward and back, The problem with it, though, is as you're doing it, you can see it starts to lift the cape. I would imagine it's probably been glued right around here, and it's been made deliberately free on the shoulders, but still moving the shoulders forward and back, it does feel like it wants to lift from the torso. The figure does also have swivel in his forearm, a single hinged elbow, which I noticed on these figures are super, super tight. I would recommend really using a hair dryer or even hot water just to soften up the joints a little bit. I've already done it on this side. I guess I didn't go back and do it on this arm either. The figure does also have a swivel here in the glove area, and also rotation all the way in the hands, forward and back. Whether, again, you want to use these hands, or to show you what it looks like to swap out the hands, let's grab a hand that we want to use for the end of this review. Maybe use the Batarang hand. The hands are super easy as well to detach. Not that I really had a problem before with the DC Direct ones, but I find like these hands, maybe again, it's just the type of plastic that they're using. The hands are a lot easier, I find, to swap out. Waist swivel, still got your waist swivel right there. The legs do manage still to split out. They, of course, move forward and back as well. Again, when it comes to like the knee area, I had a little more of an issue where, again, very much like this elbow here, the joint seemed super tight. It doesn't really bend all that much. I mean, that's to the extent, it seems, of what it can actually bend in the knee. So if you're looking for extreme poses on Batman, you're not going to really be able to pull that off. The figure does also have mild swiveling. I shouldn't even say mild swiveling. That's considerable swivelage down below here in the boots. Ankle up and down, ankle rock back and forth. And that's basically Batman. Yeah. Again, so if you've already had the DC Direct Batman, you already kind of know the territory that McFarlane Toys are covering now. Essentially just giving us a re-release of the original DC Direct figures. Now, that can be good as well. Let's just say you're a collector that's late to the game and never got the chance to get the original DC Direct Batman figures. You sort of now get the chance to do that at a much more affordable price. Some of these Batman New Adventure figures, and even for that matter, the original animated series figures, go for some stupid money online. These are a lot less stupid of a price because, again, like you're just only paying the retail price. I think Blue Cowl Batman works out to be about like a $25 figure, based at least on most of the online sites. In the end, though, while still using some of the body elements, the plastic certainly has been improved. I feel like the plastic is a little more easier going. The figure actually does feel heavier, too, than the original DC Direct. It's certainly, again, done away with the pegs there very visibly at the top of the joints. And it does, while not maybe appealing to everybody that doesn't like the look of Batman being in blue, it certainly does give us a much more user-friendly figure that doesn't feel like it's going to break as easily as maybe some of the earlier DC Direct figures did. One of the best things that came about McFarlane acquiring DC Direct was it gave then new-time collectors a chance to get figures that they missed out on before. Because they are using, for the most part, the same used molds, it means that if you missed your chance to get those old DC Direct Batman Animated Series or new Batman Adventure figures, you don't have to worry about breaking your bank to try to get them now. These figures look and feel, well, I would say look, at least, like the original DC Direct counterparts. They feel different, though. Not only do these feel heavier, but the kind of plastic feels, again, a little bit, I don't want to say rubbery, but if you were to have this one in your hand and then you try to pick up a DC Direct Batman figure, you would definitely notice there's a difference in plastic. Yes, unfortunately, it does mean that now Batman has a shinier looking suit, but I think the trade-off, though, is that this Batman feels like he isn't going to break necessarily in your hands. Not that the DC Direct ones did, although I have had a couple of the ankles on my figures break because over time, they really develop overly loose legs, which seems to be a problem that was really facing the DC Direct figures. Because they were built and based on the original cartoon designs, it made for much leaner looking, thinner limbs that would eventually develop looseness over time. And now again, we are going to be wrapping up the review for the Batman here, but though, as already mentioned, we are also going to be looking at the new Batman Adventures Riddler and Scarecrow, all thanks to the folks over at McFarlane Toys. Have you guys had the chance to pick up the resurgence of DC Direct new Batman Adventure figures, or are you still keeping the ones that you had from the DC Direct days? Let me know what you think of the new line down below in the comments section. If you guys did also enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. I certainly hope so, because I've already told you guys what else is going to be coming your way during the rest of this week. So I hope that you guys are coming back for those remaining new Batman Adventure reviews. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.